There's something amazing about standing outside in the dark and looking up at the star-jeweled sky. The Milky Way, sparkling lights splashed across the dark canvas of space. It makes me feel so small. It makes my God feel so great. I think the psalmist says it beautifully. I'm sure he was also standing beneath the same star-studded night sky. In Psalm 19 verse 1 he says, "The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands." Absolutely. It's as if the stars are God's business card. It's like God saying, "Do you want to know who I am? Take a look at this." And he shows us millions and millions of beautiful stars. But if we think this is impressive, the psalmist pushes it further when he says in Psalm 33 verse 6, "By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, their starry host by the breath of his mouth." The best I can do is probably blow out a candle. God breathes, and billions and billions and billions of stars sparkle to life. Wow, that's perspective. However, the wonder doesn't end there. Thousands of years ago, even before David wrote his beautiful psalm, God took Abraham outside and told him to look up at the night sky. In Genesis 15 verse 5, God took Abraham outside and said, "Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them." And then he said to him, "So shall your offspring be." Not only was God telling Abraham he would have a huge number of descendants, he was telling him the stars represent people, God's children. And so we read in the letter of Hebrews in chapter 11 verse 12, "And so from this one man, Abraham, came descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as countless as the sand on the seashore." The stars that twinkle in the heaven above are jewels. God breathed jewels. And this miracle is still happening. And with that, Jesus breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit." John 20, verse 22. And the result of this, Paul tells us in Romans 8:14, "For those who are led by the Spirit of God are the children of God." When Jesus breathes his Spirit into us, we become God's children. We become stars in a divine tapestry. We become God's jewels. And so as I stand under this crazy, beautiful sky, I don't only see the greatness of my God, I see love written in light. I see you and I see me. I see God's children across all time. And David must have seen the same thing as he looked up at the night sky. He too was in absolute awe. And then by God's insight, he said something totally astounding. In Psalm 147 verse 4 he says, "God determines the numbers of the stars and calls them each by name." Wow! Those stars are us. God's message to us, telling us how great he is and how much he loves us. My name is written in the stars, and so is yours. And so look up at the night sky and know God breathed those stars. Know your name is written there. Know the great God of the universe knows you by name.